So if you're talking about investing in rural areas, infrastructure is not great, which means it's not conducive for business in most instances. Investing in Black people, young people, women, those are people who are still by and large the most disadvantaged in this country, which means if you're talking investments, there's always a question that says, what are you putting on the table, or what's your skin in the game? Because obviously you don't want to put 100% of your money into someone's business, because they have no incentive to stick this thing out, because if the business goes belly up, only you lose money. At worst, they lose time. So that's the work that we do. And those are the people that we fund across South Africa. And we've been doing that for the better part of 18 years, with some good success stories, with some expensive school fees we learned along the way. But that's the business you are in. Risk is part and parcel of what we do. And one of the reasons Black people in particular struggle to secure funding is because we are considered riskier, because of where we live, because of the money we don't have, and in certain instances, because of the experience we don't have. But to my original point, support these businesses, support these entrepreneurs on the basis of the potential or what they could become, as opposed to what they are not today. Because 10, 20 years from now, we'll still be talking about there aren't enough businesses to fund. So to your original question, funding is an issue because of those underlying issues. So how do we tackle them and try to solve them instead of just pointing at them and saying they are issues?
So you've disbursed more than $1 billion to SMEs in the last 18 years. I mean, that's incredible. But what type of businesses do you then typically fund?
Sure. So, I mean, I think we've evolved over the 18 years. I think initially we invested quite heavily in the agri sector, and the reason we liked it,
Agri sector.
Agri, yes. So, in fact, our brand for the longest time had a picture of a milli meal that some of my team members are not crazy about. And the reason we opted and the reason we had opted for the agri sector at the time is because it still is. In fact, it's not as transformed. So that was the one attraction. We had the opportunity to influence or drive transformation in that sector. But because of where agribusinesses are located, it's largely in rural areas or peri-urban areas. But also it's where you can get a lot of women participation in business, something that for historical reasons didn't happen in this country. So that was the draw card. But over time, we then expanded our portfolio as we grew and as we learned some lessons to saying, actually, there is a whole host of other industries that Black South Africans could partake in with the right partner, with the right funding support. How do we then help them get there? And because of that, we've expanded to sectors like manufacturing, things like supply chain. We have quite a chunky portfolio just around your retail service stations. So chances are you filled up your tank at one point or another in one of the sites that we funded. You just don't know about it. So we've funded businesses across a variety of industries. In fact, our strategy from 2022 had been actually don't even focus on sectors, focus on the entrepreneur. If they are majority PE owned and all that other criteria that I outlined, we will then sit across from you and see, is there a business case here? Is this business viable? Are you the kind of person we'd want to partner with? And we take it on that basis.
What are we looking at in terms of the application to approval process? For small businesses that are looking to access funding, from the moment they apply to the moment the funding is granted, what is the process like, and how long does it take, and how does one get up from where they're sitting now saying, let me go apply?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a question I also get everywhere because it's fundamental. So I think as a start, how long it takes, it depends on your readiness as the entrepreneur. You drive the process. So, for
Funding
example,
readiness or what?
so your readiness, not only just for funding, but also to apply. I think sometimes people think if I send an email, say, "Hi, Ndumiso, I'm looking for funding, I've applied." At best, you've expressed interest. So, application to me is you coming with a business plan saying, "This is who I am, this is my business, this is what I want to do, this is how I want to do it, this is who my target market is, this is the size of that market, and here's how I'm going to capture this size of the market with my product or service." Because remember, for pretty much every industry, there's already people playing in that space. So if you're saying you have an idea for making a chair that is a lot better than the ones we are sitting on, what's stopping the person that made this chair from making a similar product? So how do you differentiate yourself? So those things, in my mind, are actually what makes up an application as opposed to a conversation that says I'm looking for funding. And that's important because if you have that, then the conversation shifts from...
So what are the documents then?
Yeah.
If you would say you consider this an application, I heard you mention a business plan.
Mm-hmm.
What else? It's a business plan?
So
application form?
Yep. So application form, we will give that to you. But the most important thing is the business plan. And then as part of that, FICA, which I know most entrepreneurs hate, but I always say to them, it's one of those things you can't do away with. So just
love
get
and
it.
Hate relationship.
It's a love and hate relationship. It's an arranged marriage you can't get out of, and there's a reason for that. So if you ensure that your business's financial affairs are in order on day one, it means then the conversation you and I have changes from an administrative one to a business, to a strategic one that says, "I see your business plan. I think this is the best funding instrument in the circumstances," and I'm sure we will touch on how one differentiates, as opposed to saying, "I now need your proof of address. I now need your SARS compliance. What does SARS compliance even looks like? Are you a vet vendor? Why do I need to be a vet vendor?" And all of those things. So if you get that boring admin stuff out of the way before you apply, it means you eliminate the back and forth. We can literally go from you sending this information to us going to our deal forum, and at a high level saying, "This is the business, do we have appetite? Yes or no?" If the answer is yes, then we can actually delve deep into what we call a due diligence, where we now basically turn your business upside down. We want to understand the risk. We want to understand who your suppliers are. We want to understand who your customers are. Do you have underlying contracts already, or have you received letters of interest depending on the business you are in? So my advice to entrepreneurs is always this: the more prepared you are administratively, the shorter the time from approval, from application to approval is going to be. And I find that's one of the biggest pain points in the application process, not just in this business I run today, even when I still worked for development funding institutions, that was always the stumbling block.